Welcome back to Fantasy Football. Today, it's now time for Believe It or Not. Heath Cummings tells us a statement, and it's up to you to agree with him if you believe it or not. I'm Jamie Eisenberg. That's Heath Cummings. We now welcome in Chris Towers. Let's get right to it. Here we go. Topic number one for Believe It or Not today, as I'll get to it eventually. Here we go. Believe it or not, T. Higgins will be the Bengals' best wide receiver in 2022.
I don't want, before I say the answer to this, I just want to say I think both of them should be drafted in the first 4 rounds. They might both be top 12 wide receivers next year, but if I have to choose one, I'm still choosing JaMarr Chase. While Higgins has been awesome this year and was very good as a rookie, the things that Chase has done this year, he's now the 5th wide receiver ever with 1,100 yards and 10 touchdowns in his rookie season, only the 2nd since the merger. The other 2 were Randy Moss and Odell Beckham. I would just expect a bigger leap from him than Higgins, and really, if it not for the drops, Chase would be having an even more remarkable year, and we don't really think that those are probably going to carry over next year.
You see what they did in Week 16 against Baltimore. We had high expectations for him. Dave Richard actually predicted over 200 yards for T. Higgins. He nearly got it. As you see here, 12 for 194 and 2. Chase also had a big game, 7 for 125. Both those guys, at least 10 targets. Tyler Boyd could have had 2 touchdowns. He ended up with 3 catches for 85 yards and a touchdown on 5 targets. All right, so Chris, let's not factor in Tyler Boyd because nobody's drafting him ahead of those other 2 guys. But in terms of T. Higgins and JaMarr Chase, if you get to the draft next season, would you just take the one who's left as opposed to reaching for the other one based on how good they both can be?
Generally speaking, I think that's the right way to go. I think they're both top 12 wide receivers like he, and I think you can make the case for both of them. The case for T. Higgins would be that he is seeing just about as many downfield targets as JaMarr Chase. His average depth of target is 12.0 yards down the field. Chase is 12.3. So he's got just as valuable a role. He's seeing a higher target share. And he's got a 67% catch rate compared to a 60% catch rate for JaMarr Chase. So I do think there's a lot to like about T. Higgins. But Chase, he's a year younger. He's a rookie. What he's doing as a rookie has been historic. It's one of the best fantasy seasons we've ever seen from a rookie. So I think when you add it all up, the roles are so similar and the usage should be so similar next season that I think Chase being a little younger gives him a little more room to grow. But I'm not even sure. Like Heath said, first 4 rounds. I don't think either of them is going to last outside of the top 35 picks.
That's interesting. You know, I obviously running backs, and depending on the format that you're in, will probably dictate that, plus whatever handful of tight ends we draft in the same range based on what we saw from last year. But, yes, there's a lot to love about the upside. Is Joe Burrow now a top 5 quarterback for next season?
I think he'll probably be in the conversation. I would guess right now I'd probably put him closer to 8.
Okay, so we'll see. It's hard to overlook these 2 guys and not say that Burrow, based on what the upside that we just saw, over 500 yards passing against Baltimore, it'd be nice if he plays that type of secondary on a weekly basis. Let's go now to topic number 2. Here we go. Believe it or not, Justin Jefferson will be the number 1 wide receiver drafted in 2022 or number 1 wide receiver?
Number 1 wide receiver.
So finish the year.
He will be the best wide receiver in fantasy next year.
Okay.
And it would be easy to understand why someone would think that. I do think he's worth a first-round pick next year. I can't say until we see where Aaron Rodgers goes that he's going to be better than Devontae Adams next year. I can't say that he's going to be better than Cooper Kupp next year. And I can't say for sure he's going to be better than Tyreek Hill. Deebo Samuel is the one that I'm probably not giving enough respect to. But I do think that Kupp, Adams, Jefferson, and Hill should all be first-round picks next year. I would go against Jefferson being the number 1 wide receiver, though.
So let's assume that Rodgers is back with Green Bay, and whatever happens with Robert Woods coming off of his ACL tear, assuming things stay the same for the most part for the Rams, and Kirk Cousins is still the quarterback for the Vikings. Chris, what's the order of those 3 guys for you? And factor in Tyreek Hill as well, those 4 guys.
Yeah, I think Jefferson would be 3rd. I think I'd take him over Hill just based on what we've seen from both of those guys this season and the fact that, Hill, the Chiefs just haven't been able to find the explosive plays for really at this point most of the season. So I don't know how that's going to look next season. I would take Jefferson. What he's doing as a 22-year-old is completely unheard of. He's the best young wide receiver we've ever seen. That being said, what we've seen from Cooper Kupp this season being, 5 points clear of the field in PPR scoring per game, and what we've seen from Adams doing that in the 2020 season and still continuing to be, a 21 point per game guy. If Aaron Rodgers is there, I think I would go Adams, Cooper Kupp, Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill.
I think that's the way probably a lot of people will approach it. The one thing I just want to bring up, because we're looking at Jefferson's body of work over the season, and it's amazing. But imagine what it could have been when we got to week 9, which was when we got the mantra from Mike Zimmer to Clint Kubiak to we have to feature this guy.
Right.
Because that's when his numbers exploded to what we saw a year ago. Had he done that in the beginning of the season, he might be in Cooper Kupp's range. I don't think he would, but it'd be a lot closer. And so I just wonder if, based on what we saw rookie season, back end of his second season, we know guys tend to get a little bit better in the third season, maybe not statistically, but they improve as players. This kid could be just off the charts. And so, again, similar to the Bengals situation, you might want to be at the back end of the first round or the beginning of the second round just because, okay, if somebody wants to take Adams, somebody wants to take Kupp, maybe somebody wants to take Tyreek Hill, I'll settle for him and be pretty thrilled about it based on how things have gone. And that's kind of how things unfolded for him this year. So going to be a fun topic to debate who the best wide receiver is going into the 2022 campaign. Maybe JaMarr Chase will be in that conversation by the time we get there as well. Let's go to the next topic here. Believe it or not, Michael Carter should be drafted as a top 20 running back in 2022.
I 100% believe this one. As good as he has been on an offense, as bad as the Jets have been, and I would anticipate with all the draft picks they have, I think they have 2 of the top 8 picks right now, that offensive line is going to be a lot better next year. Zach Wilson is going to be better next year. And we have seen really since week 7, because that was the first time they gave him more than 52% of the snaps. He is averaging over 80 yards per game. That includes a game where he was left with injury. It includes another game where he barely played because he was coming back from the COVID list. So I do think Carter top 20 to be drafted, and he could be a top 12 back next year.
It's going to be another fun one to debate. And so, Chris, I'll ask you this. Comparing this rookie class, I guess let's look at the top 2 guys that run the same team. Javonte Williams, Michael Carter. Who do you like better next year, assuming the Broncos get a quarterback upgrade over Teddy Bridgewater?
I think it would probably be Javonte Williams. I think he's a better player. I think he's in a better situation. The one thing I wish is that Zach Wilson threw to his running backs more often, because we have seen Michael Carter be a very good option in the passing game, and Zach Wilson just hasn't really used him that way. So that's the one thing that's really, holding me back, apart from just the general malaise of the Jets organization and offense over the last, half decade at least. So it's hard to get too excited about Michael Carter. I do think he's a good player. And my initial reaction when I saw this question was definitely top 20. Then I started actually going through it, and I came up with about 17 names that currently I'd rather have. So I think he's going to be in like the 20-ish range with the Miles Sanders and Clyde Edwards-Helaire types who are kind of in a make or break season heading into 2022.
It's a fair point, and again, we'll find out where their schedule is, so that will matter. Some of their common opponents, what their opponents, based on who they're facing. Sometimes that's an easy thing to take into account, but the NFL draft, like you said, Heath, I'm sure will determine that as well. But it's a nice situation to be in the Michael Carter camp based on what we've seen at points this season. Hopefully he'll finish the season strong with the final 2 games. All right, we talked about this a little bit in the A block. We'll obviously bring in Chris and get Heath's more in-depth opinion on it, but next topic, believe it or not, Davis Mills will be the Texans' starting quarterback week 1 of the 2022 season.
And some people said I should have said should instead of will, but I think he will be. First off, it's kind of partially about how good he's played, and he has been much better than any of us except for maybe Pete Briscoe expected. But also, I don't think this class, as of right now, has a surefire must-grab top 10 quarterback. And so if that's the case, and they're taking somebody in the second or third round, and Mills has been this good, and they choose to just do what you said, build the whole team up around him, and then if that's not good enough, go get a quarterback, I would expect he's going to start week 1. He's found money right now in a Superflex Dynasty League.
He's been fantastic. And, I think the thing that we're going to see, Chris, is obviously the trade piece that they have to give away, which is Deshaun Watson, because the teams that will be in play for Deshaun Watson, we know at least 2 of them this season, earlier this year, the Miami Dolphins, the Philadelphia Eagles, are they sending their starting quarterback back to the Texans? And so are they sending Jalen Hurts? Are they sending Tua Tagovailoa maybe back to the Texans? If that's in play, obviously it's going to be hard, I think, for Davis Mills to maybe outplay those guys, although he could. So do you believe this or not believe this, that we'll see Davis Mills as the starting quarterback for the Texans week 1 of 2022?
Well, there's the Tua and the Hurts of it all, but there's also, this is how it works with the NFL draft every year, where the further we are away from the draft, it's like, well, I don't know if there's any top 10 quarterbacks. And then over the course of the next 6 months, we're going to see, well, this guy's looking really good in practice. This guy's looked really good at his pro day. And all of a sudden, we're going to see 1 or 2 guys move into the top 10, and maybe the Texans take them. I don't think they should, just because it doesn't sound like any of those guys are really worth it right now. So you might as well just see what you have in Davis Mills, build the team up around him. I do think he will be the starting quarterback for the Texans in week 1 of next season. I don't know how much that's going to matter for fantasy unless they really significantly upgrade the offense. But if you're playing in a super flex league, absolutely, I think he's in the low end starting discussion.
Another good topic for this offseason. Again, we'll see what they do. Brandon Cooks, does he stay? Do they add to that receiving core? Because if they do build it up that way, look, he's shown you. And again, I'll reference what I said earlier. I like to see what quarterbacks do when they're stripped down of their talent around them. He had nothing around him in terms of significance. Now, again, not to discredit Nico Collins and Chris Conley and those guys, but they're not stars. And obviously what he did against the Chargers shows you that Davis Mills has the ability to be a very good quarterback. We'll see if he can be a great quarterback, but not a bad position to have on your fantasy team. I know I have him in one dynasty league, in the Superflex league. I'm very happy to have him. He's my fourth quarterback, so nice situation to be in if you have Davis Mills in those formats.